You get a notification of the recording. Yes. Good. So I would suggest we get started. Hello, everyone again. This is another call for technical support on the 2.2 sprint concepts. And why don't we maybe just clarify the situation with the example files that we had prepared, because Yannick was stating he couldn't find them unless Yannick, you have solved that. But I think Lars, you had prepared something already, right?
Yeah, there is a pull request, and I think that it actually sort of got stuck because there was this discussion about the file using both parameter values and length measures for in the geometric definitions for the alignments. But otherwise, it passed all checks. But yeah. So
yeah, and I got my hands on it. I think it was Stefan that sent me the links to the pull request or something. So I got your example files and made use of it. So that was very good.
So I
succeeded with everything, but not everything, but almost.
I looked at your latest file, Jan-Erik, this morning, and I think there, as far as I can see, there's only one thing that's left, and that's the linear placements for the reference. They miss the placement rel2 attribute, which should reference the local placement of the IFC alignment.
Yeah, that sounds familiar with the error report, but I need to learn exactly how to do this in the step physical file.
Yeah.
Could you maybe last share your screen showing this, or Stefan, as you wish, just showing how the file is structured? And by the way, so the pull request has still to be merged. Is that what you're saying? Or is it available to everyone?
So the pull request is still open, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So Lars just reviewed. So to give you a hint, Jan-Erik, what is missing?
Yeah.
However, this is also something that I think we just noticed yesterday, that we also need to expand the function. I was just looking for the issue here.
You make even more difficult tests.
Why are you saying difficult?
Explicit.
No, there is
wording, just wording.
Yeah. No, this so for your information, there in the IFC there is an IFC correct local placement function that would require an audit and an update because it does not deal with linear placement, and it should though. So if we look at this function basically says that if you have a relative placement, then you should use the correct axis to placement or axis placement. And this currently returns indeterminate for linear placement. So we're not sure if it's correct. We're not sure if it's wrong either. So we need to have a look at this function. But the checker currently still requires that this placement rel2 of the referent points to the object placement of the alignment along which this referent is positioned.
If you go to the file and look for an IFC referent, you can just
and I very much like that you've updated the file, that we have like a continuous improvement of the same file, which is
That's
what you
what
search for, Lars? Referent.
IFC referent, yeah.
This one got deleted.
Yeah, there's a few of them actually.
Yeah, it's because we have these markers for every 50 meter.
Yeah.
I could drop that, of course, but this is what we did for the game in Rome.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you find line 347.
Yes.
But this rule that we are looking at now, is that just for the initial change value reference on the alignment, or all these other reference that we have for markers should be handled the same way then? Or
it's for linear placements. All placements have this placement rel2, which
this first attribute here. Yes.
Yeah, it's the first attribute, and so in the similar way as when you do local placement, you in the local placement you relate the placement to the placement of the element that is sort of above in the structure. Like if you have an IFC tunnel in an IFC site, and then you place the tunnel relative to the site and so on. And in the same way with linear placement, if you place it along an alignment, you have the relative placement versus the alignment local placement then. So you have sort of always, you know where you are.
So this empty that you marked there, this empty parameter should reference to IFC alignment placement, or what should it reference to?
Yes.
And that is line number here.
Yes, I'm searching for it. But somehow the search will anywhere. Do you have an IFC alignment in your file? Yeah, guys, I assume so, right?
Yes. I think everything is there.
It's line 33 is the IFC alignment.
Perfect. So 33 has a placement that is, I believe, this 22.
Yeah, it is.
So this local placement, I assume it would be 22. Here. So the number 22 basically should be the first attribute of that linear placement that we were looking at before.
Okay.
This is also what Lars meant with the IFC linear placement rel2 should point to the IFC alignment attribute that is the object placement.
Okay. I understand.
And I think this was the only remaining. When I looked at the checker summary, I think this was it actually.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
then I can fix this.
For the third sprint, also the checker summary will get updated a bit, because now it's really quite a lot of text that get produced, and the checker summary on GitHub I will change so that it only reports what is missing. It makes the review easier and also your life probably. But I will include the full summary as a downloadable artifact, so that you can still have a full summary somewhere as it currently is, but we will update that hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's perfect.
But
of course, again, if you could add more information in the error text the checker produced, that would be great, because it's kind of a game to try to find the reasons there. So. And I'm a little bit too busy to enjoy these games. Of course, it's fun if you have time, but
I understand. Yeah, I was not that explicit, just so that it's easier to get the checker rolling, and also it gets you to read more of documentation, which is a benefit in the long run.
It is, but yeah, okay.
I understand. Yes, I am working on that. So.
Yeah, and I should say also, this morning before this meeting, I started the checker again. Hanno made some update, and I just started the checker because we still have to start that manually. So, but there is some. I mean, there are many files in that pull request, so need to go through it during the day.
Yeah, we need to get this merged so that Hanno
Yes.
will not need to wait for us. Hanno, do you have any questions?
No, I just create the sprint 2.3 example file. Basically, it's a voxel geometry representation. Hopefully somebody is able to read or view the file. It's actually quite funny. It's self-irony or something, but don't take it too seriously. Just a hint.
Just a hint. Is it a Pac-Man?
Yeah. Well, you will see. It's task for you. Try to open it and view it.
Let's hopefully have somebody also read it in. Yes, that would be great. No, we need Lars. We really need to get this one.
Yes.
Rolling.
Very good. Just checking. Have we got any other 2.2 submissions?
Just perhaps. Sorry, Michelle.
Yes.
Just to answer Hanno for this question. The aggregation of tunnel in the project and aggregation of alignment in the project should be two separate relationships because there are two separate usages, I believe. Lars, correct me here if I'm wrong. But each of so is the, let's say, the standard goes that each of the usages should be its own tree, and starting at the applicable entity, which is, for example, for the spatial containment, I believe, is, for example, in this case, the IfcTunnel, and for the linear containment, that's the IFC alignment, and thus they should be in two separate relationships already.
Yeah, I can say that I didn't know that either, that was needed. So, but
that's the standard.
But anyway, yes.
No, that's not the standard. Sorry.
That's not the standard?
No.
Then correct us.
Well, it doesn't say anywhere that you should use separate relationships. Honestly, it's just sort of common sense that if you have a usage for one, then you create all the instances in that template. For example, if you have a declares relationship on project and you have all of the stuff listed there, you're going to create one declares. If you have a containment relationship and you have all of the stuff listed there, you will create one containment. But if you want to create, a usage for wall, and then and a separate condition for pile, for example, then obviously you would have two separate instances, and usages are instantiations. So it doesn't say in the standard, but it's sort of common sense that if you have an instantiation documented, it's all of the instances that are in the instance, right? That's sort of the logic. But the standard itself doesn't say anything about that.
So what's the actual conclusion then regarding this particular
thing? These are two different usages here, right?
Of course, I mean, one is on project. One should be on alignment or on project. So linear decomposition or composition. The other one is spatial composition decomposition.
But it uses the same rel aggregates.
Why? If one is
it uses the same entity to sort of realize that.
Yeah.
and it's theoretically possible to use the same rel aggregates instance to sort of realize both usages.
I would disagree there, because one usage is one instantiation. So, you know,
Okay. So that was actually my question. So the conclusion is that it should be sort of different instantiations then.
I would say that depends on how we agree. I would say here. I mean, currently it's not documented. We have only spatial decomposition on project, I think, documented. But that's sort of the purpose of deployment, that we find a common way that we can agree on. But currently, nothing's documented, because linear composition is a notion that we introduced. We just have a test instruction where I would welcome feedback from Hanu.
Yeah.
It's not like we're supposed to provide this.
But it feels like it could be more on a general level, this kind of rule, than that each usage should be sort of a complete separate instantiation tree, right?
I agree with Sergey's logic here, because the usages are independent from one another, more or less, or at least on the entity itself, right? I mean, there might be like linear composition, decomposition, where we have the usage from both sides, but on the entity itself, they are independent. So I see the logic there. But
I mean,
of course,
that's how it's written.
Yeah.
That's how the usages are written, with that in mind. So let's say you have a but I don't think that's the discussion anymore. I think Lars kind of also agrees on that. The question is how we actually do it for project. Now we have a spatial decomposition on it, and we have a related objects, which can be decomposition to site, building, or spatial zone. That's what's currently there. And how we document it is, do we add something to spatial decomposition, which I would definitely and seriously disagree on. Even the naming would be very problematic here. Or we create a new usage saying linear decomposition.
Yes, and then it's either or do we allow both? That's also perhaps a next question, right?
Usages typically are all allowed. You can't really write rules between them.
Mm-hmm.
So all at once, pretty much, are allowed.
Yeah,
and I think
but not
actually makes
necessary,
sense.
right? Yeah.
Not necessary. Yep. That's a good question, and it's something probably we should involve more than two opinions. But it's not something that we can expect to be answered right now. I would, for now, just for testing purposes and deployment purposes, I would just allow two separate usages, because how it currently is, we would be fading spatial decomposition anyway. So what we introduced is linear decomposition, which is a separate one. And that's probably how we should test it for now. But of course, feedback, very welcome. If you don't like something, if you have another proposal or something, that's why we're doing it.
Exactly. Here would be my question to Hanu, because you do make a point. Downstream application have to read all the relationship anyway. In a way, yes, if they are interested in that part of information, of course, that they're reading. But Do we make a point here, Hanno, that you can?
Yeah, but basically I can live with both ways. So, but as I said, in my document application, downstream application, I have to read all the relationships anyway. So, well, when I create something new, I just verify against the schema file that is it valid or not. And if when I create this file, it was schema valid. So then I purge and merge the file. But then you guys then say that no, this is not correct way to do that because whatever reason. So
Well, there's general usage. So IFC is not the schema. IFC is the general use. So the IFC specification is the schema, the templates, the usages, and properties. So even if you're okay with the schema, then you know argumentation would be, well, a building can be inside a space then, but that's obviously not how we do it.
Yeah.
But it's valid
Yeah.
according to the schema.
Yeah, then the schema is bad.
We can argue about that, of course. Yes, I would also prefer to have stuff like that in the schema, obviously. But how they decided to do it in the past to separate the general usage and the schema into two separate parts of the specification. I completely agree. I would prefer all of this stuff that you see here in the schema, certainly. And you can do it with Express. That's the fun thing about it. But I don't know why they decided against something like that. Probably because nobody was as proficient in writing the schema in IFC4 as there were in IFC2x3. But you know, that's a different topic.
But if I made a schema isn't bad, the schema is loose, and then the usage is stricter. Clarifies how to use the schema.
Certainly, but you could do it in the schema also. So that's a great point from Hanno. It's probably just to have more freedom for different use cases. Because you could have other use cases where you don't want the decomposition into a building. So what do you do then, for example?
But
We
back
are
to what
trying to
Lars was-
cover a big chunk of the industry. Yeah.
Yep. But back to what Lars was saying, the discussion here is, and if you were to agree on the way to do that is not specific to the two entities we are talking about here, that would be applicable to globally other entities. So you would need to document this somewhere up. But anyway, as a consequence of the discussions and the agreement that seems to pop up, Lars, do you need to update your example file to confirm?
No, I mean, I
it's
think
currently documented.
Sorry, Sergey, what did you say?
Not how it's currently documented, but we have to have a discussion how we want to document it. So we can't answer the question before we had the discussion. I would prefer to have two separate relationships because you're building two separate loosely interconnected branches inside the file. And you might have many spatial decompositions on the alignment afterwards. So even if you have many sites, I would say that, you know, then you have different rel aggregations in the project, and then you have one aggregation for alignment. That's how I would do it, but that's just an opinion. I don't have any very strong arguments for it, other than if you have a a tree there, it's unambiguous. You have one site, you have buildings inside, and that's one aggregation. If you have another alignment, you have if you have another aggregation for alignment, you have the alignment and all the reference, and then connections with rel positions to the spatial structure object. So you have one aggregation breakdown for each one. That's sort of the logic that why I started with that approach. But no feelings, so tear it apart if you want.
Yeah, I think in the example file I made, I got the same comment then at one stage from Stefan. So I actually changed that. So there are already separate aggregations in that file. But so I think in this case, it's about the file from Hanno actually. Then.
Okay. So how do we gather then feedback on this proposition that we are making?
Please say again.
Sorry, Anu.
Sorry, please say again.
How do we gather feedback, opinions on this proposition that we are making now?
Well, I can leave both ways, separated or not. So it's not a big deal, but that it is just one comment, and I can live with that. The way how you guys make a decision, I can live with that. I'm very flexible.
Okay. Should we then ask Eric, Adam, Guillaume has joined us as well, whether you have an opinion on this? Or are you as flexible as Anu is?
I'm as flexible as Hanno is.
Hello.
But all this stuff need to be very clear then so it's easy to implement, at least, I would say. That's a requirement, but what you decide is not super important as I see it.
Guillaume, you were saying?
Yes, hello. Well, I will need to get back into it because I was not here for a long time, so I will watch back the recording. But I think to a certain degree we could be flexible, but I will probably give you an answer later because right now I don't know.
So I just had another thought that comes from a different project. If you're federating various models, you probably want to take the aggregation relationship also into it, because you can then track the changes since you have a GUID. That's probably one argument for having two breakdowns in project. I mean, I'm sort of biased, as you see, because we also have other projects and other requirements. So it comes all together when specifying these rules. Let's say you have a building and you have a tunnel, or let's say a building data set and a tunnel data set, and then you merge them. You probably want to take the rel aggregates from both into the final data set to keep the connection back to the original ones.
If I understand it correctly, Sergey, that would then result in basically two instances of a usage even.
In that case, in the combined data set, not really, because tunnel and building are not the same thing, sort of.
I think you have different use cases for federation of models. Probably. Sometimes you want to keep the models kind of separate in the federated model, but in other use cases, you maybe want to merge them in one spatial breakdown structure more. Or a totally another breakdown structure that you have decided for the whole project.
That's completely true, yeah, and probably in that case you would also need to take care of combined global positioning and merge that also, and have the same geometric representation context for both and so on, because that's also a thing. So yeah, of course, there's also cases where you want to merge, but if you want to keep if you would want to keep the reference, if you just federated the model to, you know, visualize them, you probably want to keep both the global positioning and the context and of course the aggregation relationship in the project, because obviously if you don't start merging geometric representation context, then it becomes muddled, and you can't really pull them apart anymore.
Yeah, and that could be a valid use case, that you don't want to pull them apart, that you just have from different submodels into one federated model.
Yeah.
But in other cases, you maybe want to be able to extract back again, because you can do changes in the federated model. It's just not for viewing and clash control and stuff like that, but also you are able to edit in the federated model and want to take the revised objects back in the submodels then, or separate models. Yeah, so I think as always, you should go through the use cases then, and take it from there.
So going from that, I would say that we need both options anyway.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I agree with that.
And you know, in that case, we probably have to have separate usages for spatial decomposition and linear decomposition anyway. It doesn't make sense to have one spatial decomposition and alignment and everything in it, since they're conceptually quite different. How you then implement them in a project, it is up to the people actually defining the structure of the data. And then again, we're at the stage where you can't really have one schema to rule them all, but you need some sort of a looseness there where you can help yourself with MVDs or IDS or whatever is needed.
But then if we allow this flexibility in these two options, then Stefan, would the checker need to be? Yep.
So
the checker would need to be could updated to allow for either or options.
The checker is, in this case, I think the checker is not that strict. I think the checker does not complain about this. This was me reviewing the file that complained.
Okay.
But we also should keep in mind that if we have a case in the checker, that's what we are checking for, and that's what software should be able to do. If we say that both use cases are to be done, the checker should be, I mean, the deployment process should be stricter in order to facilitate both options. So, am I making sense? If we say something, then software should be able to produce it. If we agree in these meetings that both are possible, then if we say put them in separate aggregations, you should be able to produce that. And then the checker should also say you're wrong according to the test instruction. Because we need something tangible to check. If we just say check for everything, then it's problematic with instructions and with implementations.
But the checker, as I understood it right now, doesn't say anything.
Yep.
Doesn't say right, doesn't say wrong. Which I would say at this stage is fine.
That's why I'm saying if we say something, then the checker should check for it. If we don't, then it's fine.
But I think we haven't said something specifically yet, have we?
No, I think it's just Stefan. I don't think we have anything actually in the documentation there, do we? I can't recall having something there.
Okay, so we probably need to check this first. But anyway, the checker as it stands today isn't harmful. It's according to what has been documented. If in some places we haven't documented, we cannot expect the checker to be more strict than this. Okay. So there is that we need to take care of. Good.
Oh,
Do we need?
We should actually check it because it says all IFC alignment instances shall be aggregated in IFC project. It shall use its own IFC role aggregate instance. That's why Stefan was picky about it and not share it with spatial decomposition. That's why what we say. So probably we should check for it.
And I need to double check that. Yeah, this is. I think we added that like after we started the sprint even. So
We haven't asked Adam for his opinion on this.
I'm flexible. It just has to be clear what it is that we're required to do. Yeah, happy to do it either way.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we are strict about it. Yeah. I just need.
If we should check.
I need to double check that what the checker has in here. Did we only write it in the documentation, or did I update the whole thing? But this will get checked even in the next sprint then again, so not to worry.
Okay. Adam, had you any other questions that you'd like to bring up to the team?
Not really. No. Just working on finishing up the 2.2 stuff. Just having a bit of issues with the IFC engine getting the geometry for the alignment, which is sort of messing everything up because I can't then look at the linear placement for the reference until I've got the alignment geometry working. But yeah, just plodding along with that.
Okay, good. So Guillaume, you mentioned where you were at. Hanu, I think, have you other questions then that we might not have answered yet?
No, thank you.
Okay. Jarek, I think you are fine with the answers provided so far.
Yep.
Yes,
please.
I'm fine.
Klaus, any other maybe more general comments you'd like to be addressed around those concepts?
No, sorry, I have no comments right now.
Very good. Anything else that we as a team would need to provide our friends with?
It seems, Jan Erik, that you have made the correct connection there. So
It's
well
your
done.
help is when you pinpoint exactly. So now I'm writing a Jira issue to the developer to fix this, so I don't have to do it manually next time.
Oh, that was a hot fix. I understand.
Yeah, this is the process. I even engaged Peter Bondsma to fix this stuff with the alignment that I struggled with here a couple of days ago, because that was in IFC engine. And they still have a bug, so I had to do some manual fixes after his implementation. So complicated stuff, I would say.
Yeah, when it will start working, then you'll have the time to do also the documentation reading, right?
At least I understand what the concepts here, and I see what I should do, and then I follow the references through the system. So I understand the concepts there.
Good.
Happy to hear that.
So I think the ball is a bit on our part, given the flexibility of our partners here. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Yeah, I was checking this too. Anything else we need to discuss this morning? I mean, we still have another call this evening for those who can make it, 6 p.m. And then 6:30 we have the kickoff of the sprint that are making up the concept that are making up sprint 2.3. If nothing else, I believe we can adjourn this one call. That's okay with everyone. Looks it is. So with that, thank you very much for your
Very
time
useful
again.
as always. Very useful. Thank you.
Thanks, Henrik.
Thank you. Thank you for your participation.
Yes, indeed.
And have a nice day and or
Good
evening.
day, everyone. Good evening, Adam.
Good
Thanks.
evening.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
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 So let's get started then. Theoretically, this is the last technical call on the concepts that make up Sprint 2.2, mainly dealing with linear placement and local placement and alignment geometries. I think from this morning exchange, we could leverage the communication the discussion we had on the file that Yannick has provided. Maybe we use this as an example. I'm sure that Artemis would be of interest to that would be of interest to you.
Sure.
And Lars, you can go as well through what you had prepared in terms of example files to start with. You are muted.
I realized I was muted. Yes.
Much better.
Yes. So the first discussion we had, but I see actually that Jan-Erik has updated his file already.
Okay.
So we have a green tick for that one, and also I think Artemis uploaded a file as well, which has a green tick. So it seems to have worked. I haven't looked at the files yet, but one thing, the last thing, which was a problem with Jan-Erik's file, was regarding the linear placement, where, well, as you know by now, placements are relative in IFC to the sort of object on the placement of an object on a higher level. So we asked for this Sprint 2.2 that you should have linear placement for the reference, which are nested into the alignment. And what was missed then by Jan-Erik was that the linear placement of the reference should be relatively placed to the placement of the alignment to which they are nested. So everything is connected, and that's sort of similar to the way, for example, you place components within an assembly or an element which is contained in a spatial structure element, or the way a spatial structure element is aggregated into a higher level spatial structure element. So the placements are always then relative. And that goes also for the linear placement. And linear placement is something that is actually then new for IFC 4.3, I think. Sergey, did it exist before? Maybe it did.
It did. It's a 4.1 concept.
Yeah. But anyway, the structure was slightly modified in 4.3. So that was one thing, but it seems like Jan-Erik has fixed that, and that has spilled over to Artemis as well, obviously. So
yeah, we are working on the same program right now. It's both Quadri and Forward. So it when I submitted it, my file seemed that it worked, like it passed all the tests.
Yeah.
So far.
So we'll just review it also manually ASAP, and then merge it also ASAP then.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be good to get rid of a couple of pull requests and start fresh. I don't know, Sergey, do you remember we had maybe one other issue that we discussed this morning also, but I seem to have forgotten that.
I don't remember.
No. I think that actually was it basically. And besides that, I mean, we still have a job to do in the project team, going through and reviewing files. We also have had updates from Hanno, Tekla, and so on. So that we will have to do. But other than that, this is the last support call for Sprint 2.2, since we are starting Sprint 2.3 in 22 minutes or something. So I guess if Michelle, if you want to add something, otherwise I guess it's open mic. And
I think we should open up for any questions that people in the room may have. Yes, indeed.
I would have a question about the alignment geometry. In the vertical alignment part, you can have an IFC alignment vertical segment with a type of parabolic arc. And what's the proper way to represent the parabolic arc in the alignment geometry in the gradient curve?
I would leave this question maybe to Sergey, but I would guess it would be maybe this polynomial.
It's if I show you the documentation on this, it's linked in the sprint, by the way. Let me take over the screen for a second. If we go to the gradient geometry, and if you go to the gradient curve definition, you can see that you have your gradient curve that references your the horizontal composite curve, and on the other hand side, the segments of gradient curve. So segments define the vertical profile, since it derives from composite curve. These segments can only be curve segments, and for the parabolic transition segment, you just go here and look at the definition of the parabolic one, which says that a curve segment has to reference a polynomial curve, and you should fill in coefficients x and coefficients y, since we're dealing with a profile, so you're pretty much in a 2D space. The y coefficients let's actually read the entire documentation. The parabolic transition segment is modeled with polynomial curve. Like I said, the size of the attributes coefficients y is restricted to 3. The quadratic term is on position 3. In general, the coefficients X size would be restricted to 2 and values specified as 0, 1. This would produce the following result. So if you have coefficients y set with 0, 1, you would have y equals coefficients x of 3. Be careful here, of 3 actually means the third element in express because it counts from 1, not from 0. And the third one then is x squared, and other coefficients are 0 if you have a parabolic, for example, a plane parabolic. This is how you would do it.
Okay, great. Thank you. I just somehow missed it in documentation, but thank you very much for the explanation.
No worries. The documentation is there for exactly this, and we are here to guide you through it. And maybe just to show you how to get to this from the sprint. If you go to sprints, we have our 2.2, I think, alignment geometry, and we go to gradient, and then you get to where I just was. You go to gradient curve, and there you have the vertical breakdown, and there you have the horizontal breakdown of the segments. So this should help you out.
Okay, yeah, great, fantastic.
Okay, thanks, Sergey. Thanks. Anyone else? Should I go by one so to make sure that everyone has expressed his opinion? Michael, do you have any questions on those 2.2 concepts?
No questions from my end. Thank you.
As clear as crystal.
Yes.
Like the water in Florida, like you. Kanizori, do you have any question? Kanizori, sorry.
No, I'm good.
Are you? Okay. Johannes?
No questions from my side. Okay.
Eric?
Yes, hello. Currently, I don't have any questions, but maybe I will have some later.
Okay, good. And I was mentioning, I was referencing to 2.2 concepts, but if you have potentially some, questions with earlier concepts, please feel free as well.
Yeah, we have some things to catch up with. Yeah.
Just last for my information, all the files that are submitted by people are available to anyone else, correct?
Yes, I mean those that have been merged, they are
right.
in the main branch. Otherwise, it's always possible to sort of peek into pull requests as well. And for example, if you use GitHub Desktop, you can you can select branches there, or you can select pull requests in that tool, for example, and then fetch the stuff that you want to look at, even if it has not been merged yet.
I have a small. Oh, sorry.
Please go ahead.
I have a small practical question. How should I think Stefan told me this earlier, but how should you go about delivering a file? Is it, do you clone the repository and make a branch, or and then a pull request?
I think what most have done is fork the repository and then clone your fork. And then, yes. I mean, you can do whatever you want. The way I did with the example files I actually created a separate branch for each one of them and then committed and created a pull request.
Okay, so I'll make a fork and then.
And then, yeah, so you have your fork, and then you can work directly in your fork, or you can clone it so you have it locally and use, for example, GitHub Desktop or some tool of your choice to work with it. But the files that you upload should be as pull requests, then, because then it will be automatically checked and also manually checked before merged.
Okay, so just make the pull request and not commit it. Yes.
Okay. Not you don't merge it. You push the files and create the pull request, and then the pull request will be automatically checked by this software, and it will be also manually checked before it's merged by most often Stefan.
Okay.
And Wojciech, have you had the occasion to read through what the checker says in return from other files than yours? Because it returns a report on the errors found. Have you looked at one of these?
I think so, yes.
You have? Okay. No, that was just to illustrate if needed be, but if you have already looked at it, then that's good. Okay.
One remark, Eirik, before we continue, be careful when you create your first pull request. We typically have to approve and start the automatic check. It doesn't start automatically. Once it's going, it should be there. But if it doesn't start automatically, just send us a notification or something. We typically get it, but one might not be immediately available. So.
Yeah. So when you have had your first merge, then the checker will start automatically after that. But before that, we need to actually start it manually.
Oh, okay.
For the first run, only for the first run.
Yes. So maybe I can just show since you sort of mentioned it, Michel.
Yes, please.
Maybe I can just show also quickly where you find the report. So we can take this file by Artemis. You see that it has a green tick next to it. That actually means that the automatic checker has run and the file was okay. But anyway, if you want to look at it, you can go to this IFC schema and usage check, click details, and then you have a summary. Summary. Okay, so that was actually seemed like something strange here. Let me go to another pull request. Let's take this one. And we go to the checks and the summary. And you have a report here, exactly which checks has passed or failed. And in this file, all the checks from all the different sprints actually are checked okay. So, and if there are any errors in the checker, it will be reported here.
Okay.
Yeah, Eric, sorry, Lars, since you're sharing your screen, can you just have a look at the issues? We still have 3 issues pending that have been posted. I think that one is to be closed.
Let me check issues. I don't find any example for Sprint 2.2. We have an example in this pull request, but it hasn't been merged. But you can peek into it.
Yes.
Yeah, you can see it here. I mean, if I go into the pull request and here files changed, we have the IFC file. So that was that.
Second
and then
one.
we have IFC alignment 2D representation context map coordinates by Adam. I haven't actually looked at this one before.
Lars,
Yeah.
why haven't we merged the pull request? Should I just merge it?
The previous one, you mean?
The example file, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, the reason it wasn't merged was that the geometries uses a mixture of parameter values and length measures.
Oh, that's an ugly one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's fix that.
Yeah.
Merge.
So is the answer to Adam easy, or is that a complicated one? What should we be doing for the map coordinates in 2D, as from the attributes to geometric context would not know about the map coordinates? Despite a separate context. Just so Stefan has answered.
Yes.
Well, that's what you typically do for every context. You have to have a context set, which means you have to have a either map conversion or whatever reference from the outside.
Yep. So with that, shouldn't we close the issue?
Maybe just check that Adam is content with the.
He's fine with it. Okay.
Yeah.
The creator of the issue closes it.
Okay.
So that's what I would also ask from Jan Erik, if he's satisfied with the answer there. if he can close it, that would be really nice.
So, but then you can explicitly ask Adam whether he's satisfied with the reply, just to make sure that he understands that he's expecting from him to close.
Can you maybe?
Exactly. if satisfied, or presuming you are satisfied with the answer.
Yeah, and then the last one is a simple one. We have now for the IFC specification, but I guess that will be then for Sprint 3.x.
Yes. Exactly.
We have a whole lot of new property sets, and also since the some structures, for example, for excavation has been slightly modified. Certain P sets already existed that needs to be moved one level up, because we have they were asking no QTO related to IFC underground excavation, but we have actually in 4.3, we only had something called IFC earthworks cut, which is sort of not underground excavation then, and a quantity set for that. But for IfcTunnel, we actually added an abstract superclass IFC excavation, which then is a superclass of both earthworks cut and underground excavation. And the P set or the QTO will be moved to this higher level, so it's valid for both of these. So
we said we would leave this one up until we have populated the schema with the
yes.
Okay. Good.
Lars, you should probably open the one from Jan Erik because he had a second question in it. Might be useful for others. It was about the local placements that shall not have cyclic references. So let's say you have a site that has a building in it or a tunnel, since we're in tunnel. The site and the tunnel should not be using the same local placement because you would create a cyclic reference because the local placement of tunnel should be placed relative to site.
Yeah, so that was sort of similar to this linear placement issue that we discussed before. I mean, the placement rel2 attribute in the placement shall point to the object placement of the object that is sort of above it in the structure, the sort of containing instance. So you have this sort of a tree structure of placements that follows the sort of hierarchical structure of the IFC dataset.
Indeed, so that would be the second answer to the question. Good.
Yeah.
Can I suggest we maybe close this one call and that I activate the other link just to avoid any confusion, and then we reconnect for the 2.3 kickoff?
Yeah, so that's another Teams meeting.
That's
link
another
then.
Teams link, yes.
Yeah, okay.
And we close this one here. And so everyone, of course, is more than welcome to join the kickoff of the 2.3 in 2 minutes.
Okay.
See you there.
See you there.